Hello! Monsters Abound here, Creative Assembly, have sponsored this video. So I'm being paid for it, and its purpose is to tell you about one of my favourite Total War games ever. I mean, I love all Total War games, but there are a few that stand out, one of which is Empire Total War, or Total War Empire after they switched the branding around. In an age when men wore big hats, ships had those flappy bits that made them go, and everyone had a very spiffy uniform on. Warfare was a more gentlemanly affair. You just line up your armies in nice orderly blocks and take turns shooting at each other. You probably even got to change ends and get an orange at half time. Frankly, I've always felt like all this running about and taking cover and combat rolling when shooting things is for blackguards and scoundrels. Plus it gets you all sweaty and ruins your lovely uniform with its shiny buttons. No. Standing perfectly still and hoping that the enemy miss. That's the ticket. That's it, Gerald. Stiff upper lip, steely gaze, back ramrod straight soul. I say, tough luck. Empire is one of only 3 gunpowder-focused games Total War have ever made. 1, I never got around to playing. 2, I thought was interesting but never quite hit the spot with me. And Empire, which is how I count, and also a game I spent during my university years playing instead of going to project management lectures. Totally worth it, and I still got a 2-1, which is a damning indictment of the United Kingdom's university system. A game featuring multiple campaign map locations, naval combat, nerd fights, standing in line and shooting each other, and unit diversity. So let's take a closer look at these features and why Total War Empire is worth it. It was the first and last Total War, I don't know about Napoleon, maybe they used multiple theatres as well, to use multiple map theatres. Europe, America and India are all part of the campaign map, and then are little mini theatres filled with trade nodes and pirates. Want to do 80 turns around the world? You can! It won't take you 80 turns though, movement ranges were very generous in Empire, which means you'll certainly win that wager. I can never think of 80 days around the world without thinking of a lion in a top hat. Empire was the first Total War game to introduce naval combat. That's right, whenever someone asks will there be naval combat in a new Total War game, Empire is to blame. But it does naval warfare really well. Because it has cannons, that's the secret to naval battles in Total War, have cannons. Ships clash in close quarter battles, which are the most visually stunning naval battles in the entire series, at least according to me. Explosions and splinters of hull flying everywhere. The combat is, as with some naval combat in Total War, a tad clunky at times, but there is something supremely satisfying about building a fleet of ships and then sending them off to engage your enemies or pirates and secure overseas territories, or more importantly, those trade nodes. Ever wondered who would win in fisticuffs between Sir Isaac Newton and some French guy who, after I looked him up on Wikipedia, it turns out he's a poet? Engage in nerd Pokemon battles and find out. Come on Newton, get in there my son. He's probably just getting a run up. A really, really good run up. I'm sure he's fine, probably just winged him. We'll never discover gravity now. Mind you, the thing about gravity was it really was just low-hanging fruit. Agent videos! Watch your gentlemen shoot each other, stab each other, and snub each other at parties. By far the most brutal outcome. Empire is a refreshingly sedate affair. Lots of guns and cannons means moving people into position and then watching the resulting carnage take place in relatively slow motion, allowing you to move your units around and fight a battle without needing to have the lightning fast reactions of a StarCraft 2 Diamond League member. Look, I love Warhammer 2, it's my number 3 love in life, but it can feel like a 3-year-old's birthday party where someone has accidentally put out the full sugar pick and mix. It's Pandemonium, utter and complete chaos, things bouncing off the walls, strange substances underfoot, the whole shebang. Empire, though, is like sitting down next to a lovely warm fire with a tartan blanket and a steaming cup of hot chocolate. Comfortable. You get time to watch the fighting and ogle all the spiffy uniforms to your heart's content. And I like that. I like being able to watch the battle slowly unfold and feel like a little nudge here or a charge there is going to slowly push the battle in my favour, and then I can push in advance and on to victory. It's just satisfying. I like watching my little men in spiffy uniforms standing in lines and taking pot shots at each other. It's my thing. Okay, so Empire does not have the best unit diversity of any Total War game, although certainly not the worst, as you tend to field stacks of line infantry, at least if you were a European faction. But there was some unit variety even then, and some factions relied on their skirmishers, and even the line infantry was slightly different depending on country. Prussia and the United Kingdom had better line infantry than other factions, Russian line infantry was better in melee, and Austria just had terrible line infantry, for some reason. Outside of the European countries, the unit diversity was a bit more interesting as you could field different infantry, artillery, and even elephants. On top of that, your research mattered more, as getting technology such as square formation or slotted bayonet would upgrade all of your units and increase your army's power. Some technology, such as the firing drill, would make your units exponentially more powerful, as your infantry could then fire in rotating lines, whereas everyone else without that tech could only fire the front rank. Total War Empire is a fantastic game in the Total War series, set in a fascinating period of history, and it feels really different from almost every other Total War game in the series. Its huge map spans more area of the planet than any other Total War game. It's brought in a lot of firsts for the series, with technology trees and naval combat being introduced. Provinces expand as new resource buildings pop up if enough growth is accumulated. Acquiring trade nodes is quite important due to income that it produces, which feels true to the era, and also encourages the building of ships, which then leads into that naval combat. The battles look fantastic for a game that is over 10 years old. I think the naval battles at Empire still look some of the best naval battles I've seen to date in any game, and while the naval battles can get messy with big fleets, small fleet actions feel very rewarding. One of my most memorable Total War battles to this day is as Prussia fighting street to street through a town against Sweden, taking cover in buildings, using my grenadiers to melee the enemy skirmishers, and then having my artillery pound buildings filled with their infantry into rubble. Empire is a brilliant game. It's got its flaws, of course, but if you're looking for something a bit different in Total War, it's well worth a punt, especially if you enjoy watching nerds slap each other about. Thank you very much for watching, and if you decide to pick it up, I hope you have fun.